Namaste, Jayant, and welcome to this edition of The Right Stand. And we're going to start with something which is special to the astha of millions of people across the world, ladies and gentlemen. These are the two Shilas, the Shaligrama, which have now arrived in Ayodhya. Of these stones, which weigh 18 and 16 tons respectively, from these will be one of the stones, will be the idol, which will then become the deity, that is Ram Lala Virajman, the presiding deity at Ram Janbhoomi. There will be other deities or other idols also that will be carved out, but right now, these two stones, which are dated more than 6 crore years, they are now present in Ayodhya. After a period of time, slowly the sculptors will start carving these stones and the work will begin. These stones themselves are considered very holy. So tonight on The Right Stand, let's start with why these stories, the story of Ram Mandir, why these stones are special, and why this is going to underline the astha of crores of people. The word Shaligram itself has Ram in it, ladies and gentlemen, and the presence of Vishnu. For Vaishnavas across the world, the stone Shaligrama is very, very special because itself is seen as a manifestation of Vishnu. Let's talk about it a little more. More importantly, this is Nepal's gift to India. Now, it has come from the Gandaki temple that has sent two Shaligram stones. The former Deputy Prime Minister of Nepal, Bimalendra Nidhi, is also played a key role behind this gift. He also hails from Janakpur. These stones also hail from Janakpur. The Janaki temple is situated in Janakpur, which is also seen as Sita's birthplace. Rudrabhisheka of the Shilas was performed on the 26th of January 2023. The Rudrabhisheka was performed at the Kaleshwar Mahadev temple. Interestingly, Mahadev in the Brahma Samhita has been defined as by Brahma as the greatest Vaishnava. Shiva is the greatest Vaishnava. Now, Bhagwan Ram's bow will also be sent by the Janaki temple. So that will be another gift that will be sent towards the latter half of this year. Now, let's talk about what are these Shaligram stones and why are the Shaligram stones so special as far as Hindu astha, especially with Vaishnava Sampradaya, is concerned. Shaligram stone is a fossilized ammonite. It lasted between 400 to 66 million years ago, and that's why, on an average, these stones are at least 6 crore years old. Both Shaligram stones are from the Gandaki river. The Shaligramas are found in abundance in the Gandaki river because they are seen flowing down from the Himalayas. Many archaeologists have said historically the Himalayas were the sea earlier and then they rose, and that's how Bhumi came out. And that's why there is a reference also to it in our folklore when we talk about the stories of Ram as Vishnu. The rise of the Ram Mandir. The rise of the Ram Mandir and the importance of this stone. It's a non-anthropomorphic image of Lord Vishnu. That's what the Shaligrama stones are considered as. It's mentioned in verses 1.6.1 of the Taittiriya Upanishad. There is a mention of this by Adi Shankara itself. It also finds a mention in 1.3.14 of the Brahma Sutras. Hindus believe Vishnu took the form of Shaligrama. He took the form of a stone to defeat the demon Hayagriva. And that's why Shaligrama as a stone is seen of huge importance. The significance of the stone is that it's worshipped as a symbol of Bhagwan Vishnu's power. It is considered to have divine properties, believed to bring good luck and prosperity. It has talismanic effect, that's what Hindus believe, to ward off negative energies. And ancient Hindu temples were built with this stone. A lot of the stones and the carvings in it resemble various forms or various identities, symbols associated with Vishnu, like the conch, like the mace, and these are all which are seen on these stones. That's what many believe, and that's why further underlining that it is a manifestation of Bhagwan Vishnu. The Shaligram Yatra route being very, very interesting. There were research people, there were priests from Nepal, along with 100 very devoted workers of the Vishwa Hindu Parishad, who undertook this journey from Janakpur in Nepal, which is, and then went about 53 kilometers, where they reached Madhubani in Bihar, a total of about 594 kilometer journey from the 26th of January till today, the 2nd of February. From Madhubani, it went to Benipatti, again in Bihar, about a 40-kilometer journey. Then it rested in Darbhanga in Bihar, 62-kilometer journey. But more importantly, at each of these places, there were huge numbers, scores and scores of devotees of Ram who came there to pay their obeisance to another manifestation of Ram or Vishnu. Now, Muzaffarpur in Bihar was the next stop. That was 141 kilometers before the Shaligram stones. These Shilas, they crossed Bihar and entered Uttar Pradesh via Gopalganj. There was a halt at Kushinagar en route to Gorakhpur, and then finally the distance from Gorakhpur to Ayodhya, that was also traversed, and a total of 134 kilometers traversed to a total distance of 594 kilometers. Now, the Shaligram carved idols are statues of Krishna at the Krishna Matha in Udupi. Like I said, all those deities, gods, Bhagwans who belong to the Vaishnava Sampradaya or seen as avatars of Vishnu, manifestations of Vishnu, these deities are carved in Shaligrama stones. Statues of Krishna at the Radharaman temple in Vrindavan. Statue of Vishnu at the Padmanabha Swami temple in Thiruvananthapuram. Of course, the deity, presiding deity at the Badrinath temple in Garhwal region, that is also Vishnu, that is also carved out of the Shaligram stones. Clearly, the idols will also be carved out. And what are the idols that will be made out of these two stones that weigh 18 tons and 16 tons respectively? The idols of Ram and of course goddess Janaki will be carved out, but the small idol of Ram Lala in his infant adolescent stage will also be carved out of these stones. Idols will be placed in the main temple complex of the Ram Mandir. Idol of the young Lord or baby Ram or Ram Lala will be between 5 to 5.5 feet tall. We are given to understand, though it's still open to final adjustments and what will be eventually carved out of these stones. Shaligram stones, both these stones, one is a bigger one that weighs about 18 tons, the smaller one weighs about 16 tons respectively. It's been approved technically and scientifically for making these idols. So there was a research team which went and identified these stones. There's a lot of due diligence that was done. So that's the story behind these two stones, why they are so important, and of course for the astha of crores of Hindus who will be looking for a mandir for Ram Lala at Ram Janmabhoomi. This is a manifestation of that. So the work is going to begin, and as has been promised, by the end of this year, these not only will the idols or the statues, idols be ready, they will be ready for the Prana Pratishtha and the manifestation of Ram Lala as a deity at Ram Lala Virajman. Pranshu Mishra was in Ayodhya as these Shilas entered Ayodhya today. Have a look at this ground report.
The Ram temple construction in Ayodhya is going on in full swing. Two sacred rocks from Nepal have arrived in the temple town. The idols of Ram and Sita will be carved out of these rocks and placed in the main temple complex of the Ram Mandir. The stones have been offered for the Ram Lalla idol by the people of Nepal. The Shaligram stones are said to be found only on the river banks of the Kali Gandaki river that flows in neighbouring Nepal.
As the construction of the grand Ram temple gains pace in Ayodhya, these are the two huge several tons of Shaligram rocks that have now arrived in Ayodhya all along the way when they started their journey from Nepal and all along their way to Bihar and then parts of Uttar Pradesh, Gorakhpur especially in Uttar Pradesh. They have seen a lot of crowd turnover. People have been, getting close to these rocks to get a glimpse of them, touch them, and in fact they have been treated with a lot of religious fervor, a lot of reverence by the devotees here.
One stone weighs 18 tons and another 16 tons. Both of them have been approved technically and scientifically for making the idol.
क्या है इन पत्थरों का महत्व क्या है?
ये गंडकी वो गंडकी को बोलते हैं कि ओल्डर देन हिमालय. इंडेक्स फॉसिल टेक्टोनिक अपलिफ्ट ऑफ हिमालय का इंडेक्स फॉसिल्स शालिग्राम शिला है. वो अमोनाइट वो होता है. ये कैल्साइट है, वो क्वार्टजाइट है. ये साक्षी बैठा है कि ये इसका प्रमाण शालिग्राम है, वहाँ मिलता है.
Hundreds of volunteers and devotees went to Ayodhya to welcome the sacred stones.
इस पत्थर को हम लोग भगवान विष्णु के रूप में देखते हैं. जो शालिग्राम, जिस जगह शालिग्राम रहता है उसी जगह पर ये पत्थर रहता है, तो इस पत्थर को भी शालिग्राम के ही माना जाता है।
काली गंडकी में मतलब वहाँ पे मानता है नेपाल में, जो काली गंडकी की जो पत्थर सब है, बिना काटे हुए तो मूर्ति का रूप तो नहीं होगा, वो तो करना ही पड़ेगा।
अब यहाँ श्री राम के अवध में यहाँ पर मंदिर में सजे बने, और यही हम लोग की कामना है। बड़ी उल्लास के साथ हम लोग आए हैं, सैकड़ों की संख्या में जनकपुर धाम में।
The grand celebrations for the opening of the Ram Mandir will start in December 2023 and will continue till Makar Sankranti in January 2024. The door of the Grand Temple will be opened for devotees on the 1st of January 2024.
I'm joined by two scientists who also dwell in spirituality. That, if I may introduce Dushyant Sridharji and also Professor Nachiketa Tiwari. That way, I'm sure they wouldn't mind. Now, namaskarams and namaste to the two of you. Now, let us start with Dushyant ji. This is historic. This is very special. The importance of Shaligrama, there is a science behind this too, because what they say is that those who will chisel, the sculptors who will chisel the murti of Ram and Sita out of this, are also God gifted. They have a God gifted chisel. I've got viewers who are sending me more information as they watch this. So this is special to everybody. So let's just talk a little more and dive into it. Why Shaligrama? Why is it so important? And what is the significance if these two Shilas are coming from the Kali Gandaki river in Janakpur and they are arriving in Ayodhya? Dushyant ji.
Momentous occasion, Anand. To you, to me, to all the Astikas in Bharatadesha and the world over. So through News 18, I wish all the devotees, first of all, it's such a huge change to come for a positive news based event. Otherwise, it's a fight. So it's a very momentous occasion. Yes, so in our Shastras, even in Srimad Bhagavatam and the rest of the Puranas, beginning from Jada Bharata, he went to Shaligrama Kshetra, which is today called Muktinath, one of the 108 Divyadeshams.
Yeah.
He went there and performed tapas by the banks of river Gandaki. So Shaligrama Kshetram, the pious nature of the river Gandaki has been there for millenniums together, especially in our Vedic civilization, in all our scriptures. That is one. Second thing is, these Shaligrama Shilas, of course, we have got huge ones for making the Divyamangala Vigrahams, the murtis of Rama, Sita and the other deities. But when we look at the stones, they can be kept in the house also. So they are very small, they are black in nature and they are light. And it is said that rishis of the previous birth become insects called Vajrakitas, and they bore holes into these Shaligrama Shilas, and based on the shape what they bore, we decide which murti it is. Is it Matsya Murti, Kurma Murti, Nisimha, Sudarshana? All this is decided based on the shape in which it goes inside and cuts it. So there are also golden lines in some of the Shaligrama Shilas. So this is one. This can be done Aradhanam at home, but for Ayodhya temple where Astikas will gather all over the world, it has come in a huge form from Nepal. Interestingly, Nepal, Anand, because Valmiki mentions in the Balakanda that Rama, while he was on an internship of 6 nights with Vishwamitra Maharshi to prove his prowess and valor, by the end of it, to offer him a stipend, he receives a message that let's go to the Dhanush Puja, the festival meant for the bow, at Mithila, which is Nepal. So that is where he goes, he strings the bow, it breaks, and then he ends up marrying Sita. So if at all we go by the geographical boundaries of the current day nations, Nepal is a different country. So if we can say it that way, that Nepal has given us 2 huge priceless gifts. One is Jagannatha Sita. She hails from Nepal and we are very proud of her. And second is the Shila now, from which it will, the Divyamangala Vigraham will be carved, because in Sanatana Dharma, Anand, we don't call them idols. Of course, in the modern parlance, people call them idols. For us, it is Divyamangala Vigraham. We see God in it. It may be a piece of nature to a non-believer, but to a believer, we see divinity in it. Extremely happy to be addressing News 18 on such a positive note. Welcome the Shilas to be to our Bharatadesha.
Yes, it has. It is a matter of positivity because it is also the end of a long wait for many astikas, as you said. And yes, we should call them vigrahas or Divya Mangala vigrahas, as you have said. The other aspect is that you said it forms various shapes. One of the shapes most common is the Panchajanya or the conch shape of Bhagwan Vishnu. Professor Nachiketa Tiwari, there is also science because lore itself says, history itself says, even in our scriptures, there is a mention of it from prehistoric times, if you were to say. That means that there was a certain level of divinity on earth in this Bhukhanda even before man existed. So the anthropomorphic form of Vishnu.
So, once again, Anand, like Dushyantji mentioned, it's a very good thing to have a program on a very positive note and no controversies here. With your permission, I'd like to speak in Hindi so that maybe the outreach is a little more. तो जो ये शालिग्राम, जैसे दुष्यंत जी बता रहे थे, एक पाषाण का टुकड़ा है, जो नास्तिक व्यक्ति है वो एक पत्थर के रूप में इसको देखेगा और उससे एक मूर्ति का निर्माण होगा। लेकिन शालिग्राम खुद भी दिव्य माना जाता है, ईश्वर का प्रतीक माना जाता है। और अगर हिंदू वांग्मय में, हिंदू ग्रंथों में, हिंदू दर्शन में देखें तो सब जगह ईश्वर ही व्याप्त है और कुछ भी नहीं है। जब मनुष्य आता है, जाता है, मनुष्य नष्ट हो जाएगा, मनुष्य फिर से उसका उद्भव होगा, लेकिन ईश्वर रहेगा। तो उस दृष्टि को देखें अगर आप, और क्योंकि भगवान हर जगह व्याप्त है तो पत्थर में क्यों नहीं हो सकता है। हमारे जगन्नाथपुरी में लकड़ी से मूर्ति बनती है जी, कृष्ण जी की, और वो जो तीनों देवी देवता लोग हैं वहां पर लकड़ी से मूर्ति। तो शालिग्राम से मूर्ति का जो निर्माण है वो एक तरीके से निराकार से साकार की तरफ की यात्रा है। निराकार से साकार की तरफ की यात्रा, वो शालिग्राम से मूर्ति का निर्माण है। ईश्वर रहेगा, ईश्वर है, लेकिन एक बार पत्थर से एक मूर्ति बनी। और मूर्ति, जैसे दुष्यंत जी बता रहे थे कि इट इज नॉट एन आइडल। आइडल मीन्स रिप्रेजेंटेशन, इट मीन्स एन आर्टिफैक्ट, बट नॉट द ओरिजिनल, नॉट द ऑथेंटिक थिंग। मूर्ति का लिटरल अर्थ यही होता है फॉर्म, रूप। तो ईश्वर का रूप है वो, और उसमें एक दुष्यंत जी और वो जाष्ठा होती है। तो वो निराकार से जब साकार का रूपांतरण होता है तो वो एग्जैक्ट टाइम तब होता है जब उसमें मूर्ति की आंखें खोली जाती हैं। क्योंकि जब आप आंख खोलते हैं तो आपको पूरी दुनिया दिखती है, सबको विविध प्रकार के रूप दिखते हैं, विविध प्रकार की का सौंदर्य दिखता है, रूप दिखता है। तो वो एक यात्रा, ये पहली बात। दूसरी बात, क्योंकि ये रामचंद्र जी से संबंधित है, तो इस संदर्भ में मैं ये कहना चाहूंगा कि रामचंद्र जी सिर्फ वैदिक या वैष्णव के ही इष्ट नहीं है जी, वो पूरे भारत के और पूरी दुनिया के हैं। कुछ उदाहरण देना चाहूंगा कि हमारे जो जैन बंधु हैं, 24 तीर्थंकर उनके हुए हैं जी। उसमें से 20 तीर्थंकर, हो सकता है मेरी गिनती हो 1-2 ऊपर नीचे हो जी, वो अपने को इक्ष्वाकु वंश के तीर्थंकर बोलते हैं कि ये इक्ष्वाकु वंश में जन्मे हैं। तो इक्ष्वाकु इज द सेम वंश ऑफ कृष्ण, ऑफ राम। हाँ जी, दे से इट विद अ लॉट ऑफ प्राइड, यस, लॉट ऑफ प्राइड, यस। बौद्ध बंधुओं से पूछिए तो भगवान बुद्ध खुद कहते हैं कि पूर्व जन्म में मैं राम पंडित था। तो हम लोगों के वैदिक और शंकराचार्य और बौद्धों के बीच तर्क वितर्क बहुत हुआ है, लेकिन राम की महत्ता को कोई नकारा नहीं जी। फिर आप सिखों में आइए तो सिखों में एक बहुत बड़ा ग्रंथ लिखा गया है, दशम ग्रंथ जी। और दशम ग्रंथ में जिसके लेखक गुरु गोविंद सिंह जी हैं जी, उसमें उन्होंने 10 अवतारों का वर्णन किया है और सबसे विस्तृत वर्णन जो है रामचंद्र जी का है। फिर आप गुरु ग्रंथ साहब को देखिए तो वहां राम नाम की जो महिमा है 2500 बार, एक ग्रंथ में 2500 बार उसका उल्लेख आता है राम जी। तो राम, ये तो भारतीय दृश्य हुआ। अब भारत के बाहर अगर आप जाएं तो भारत के बाहर लगभग 300 वर्जन्स हैं रामायण के, अलग अलग समय पर लोगों ने लिखा है, क्योंकि वो राम के चरित्र से सब लोग जो भी पढ़ा है वो हमेशा प्रभावित हुआ है। राम, एक वो मैथिली शरण गुप्त, ये मुझे ध्यान नहीं आ रहा है किसने लिखा है कि राम तुम्हारा चरित्र स्वयं ही काव्य है, कोई कवि बन जाए सहज संभाव्य है। शायद मैथिली शरण गुप्त का शब्द
नहीं,
होगा।
ये तो हर कोई जानता है कि राम राम रामेति रमे रामे मनोरमे सहस्र नाम तत्तुल्यम राम नाम वरानने। तो राम की महिमा, there is no fight on that. The other aspect
There's
is
no fight.
there's no argument on that. The other point is, Dushyant Sridhar, he made a lovely point where he said that divinity exists in both living and non-living, personal and impersonal, and this is something which it is mentioned by Bhagavan Krishna even in the Bhagavad Gita, where he said that all that is manifested, living and non-living, is nothing but an amsha of my energy, if I remember that verse correctly. But here,
इसमें एक, if you allow me, I like to add one more important point.
जी, and then I'll bring in Dushyant ji.
वनवासीज and tribals जिनको हम आज कहते हैं, because you use this word Ansh.
Yeah.
So in the Assam, there's a tribe, Boros, and they call themselves as Ramsh, which is basically Ansh of Ram.
Ram.
And then in Chhattisgarh, there is another tribe, एक और जनजाति है, जो अभी भी हजारों वर्षों से राम नाम अपने उसके ऊपर गोदाते रहे हैं।
जी।
तो महिमा की बात ही नहीं है, मतलब राम ने सबको जोड़ा है, और ये जोड़ने की जो प्रक्रिया है पूरे भारत में ही नहीं, भारत के बाहर भी लोगों को जोड़ा है।
No, that is true.
So this is what I wanted to.
No, you've elucidated it beautifully. There is a need to understand the significance of what is happening, Dushyant ji. And final words to you, because this journey from a Shaligrama, interestingly, no part of these Shilas will go waste, because everybody will want an amsha of these Shilas. Because even if they does not make the final Vigraha, these Shilas themselves have a certain element of divinity as far as the Astikas are concerned. So, final word. Ji.
True. There is a saying, Anand, Ayodhya aparajiteti vidita nakam parena sthita. The city of Ayodhya itself means the city that can never be vanquished in a war.
Yeah.
But, you know, every city, every person, every nation has its own ups and downs. Yes, Ayodhya had its own share of problems in the last 500 years.
Yeah.
But now it should just be uprising. And a momentous occasion to have this temple. And in this temple, when the Prana Pratishtha is done using the Shalagrama Shila that has come from by the banks of river Gandaki, it is going to add a lot of positivity, Anand. See, we should see what is the benefit for the people. Ultimately, it boils down to what is the benefit for the person here. So, Sanatana Dharma insists that though God is omniscient, though Paramatma is present everywhere, to realize that Paramatma, who is omniscient and omnipresent, it requires a lot of science behind it. That's where Agama Shastra comes into picture. And based on Agama, when you construct a temple, you do a Prana Pratishtha, it adds a lot of positivity. So we talk about GDP, whereas Bhutan used to be talking about the happiness quotient, the index. So I feel for the happiness index, for the peace index of the country, I'm sure Ayodhya, this temple, this beautiful Divyamangala Vigraham of Rama and Sita is going to be a trend setter, and there is going to be only happiness across the sections of society. We talk about Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, Sabka Vishwas. All that will happen with the grace of Ayodhya, and hopefully the entire country should unite very, very positively in seeing the Samprokshanam, the Kumbhabhishekam of this beautiful temple.
Absolutely. I have run out of time. I have plenty of ground to cover, so we will have a longer discussion, longer conversation, and try and spread more positivity. Two scientists talking about spirituality is proof that science and spiritualism go hand in hand. And there is a little bit of science in every spiritual act, and there is a little bit of spirit in every scientific act. So, however we look at it. Thank you very much, Dushyant ji and Professor Nachiketa Tiwari. Thank you very much. Moving on, ladies and gentlemen, to this BBC China Link showdown. Mahesh Jethmalani ji is backing his claims with articles which are being done by UK dailies now, which are only not just opening the closet, but allowing all the skeletons to tumble out big time. Now, we have a British MP, Lord Alton, who's escalated the attack. Now, he's turned around and said that Lord Alton has said that BBC apologists in India are demanding, even as they demand proof, but not just Huawei, but 18 other Chinese clients. This is what Mr. Mahesh Jethmalani tweeted earlier in the day. A UK MP, he's quoted Lord Alton, says, "His bread I eat, his song I sing." And that's because Lord Alton, in the article that was put out by the UK daily, The Deadline, has come out and said that it is impossible that the BBC's argument that one of its wings is doing huge amounts of corporate work and campaign work for Chinese clients, those who are blacklisted or those who are under scrutiny for human rights violations, etc., and say that its journalism and its journalistic wing is not affected at all. So that's what the Rajya Sabha MP leader said. But what's the BBC Huawei link and the China link to the Modi BBC documentary? BBC desperately needs money. BBC is anti-India and is up for sale. Cash for propaganda deal. This is what he had tweeted earlier. But this is what Lord Alton has written. He has written to the BBC and he has turned around and said, and very clearly, he has written to Tim Davie, the Director General of BBC, saying, review the activity of commercial unit of the BBC wing that is called Storyworks. He has written that he is demanding a rethink on the decision to produce ads for organs of Chinese media. He's also said that Storyworks has partnered with 18 Chinese clients. Allegation is that allegedly produced ad campaign for China Global TV Network, which is banned in the United Kingdom. So these ads were produced for CGTN despite being banned in the United Kingdom, and there are other projects too which they have gotten into. The UK lawmaker Lord Alton has written to the BBC and he's further gone ahead and said it's unrealistic to believe that commercial relationships with Chinese Communist Party have no bearing on the behavior of the network itself. It is difficult to see how it can be legitimate to provide revenue to a state credibly accused of genocide and crimes against humanity. And how can you take money from entities who are doing this, perpetrating this, and have been accused openly, brazenly of perpetrating it? And it's witness across various portions which China occupies. Now, what the BBC has turned around and said is, hosting an ad outside of the United Kingdom allows us to generate income to invest in the BBC. All ads comply with our strict advertising and sponsorship guidelines. Commercial work is entirely separate and has no bearing on our journalistic output. Now, they say that we continue to cover matters relating to China extensively without fear or favor, which Lord Alton says is unbelievable. That's where he has said, his bread I eat, his song I sing. That's where the reference came in, which was quoted by Mahesh Jethmalani. So is the BBC China link proven? Are there more skeletons that will tumble out of the closet? Adit Kothari, founder of the Indic Society, Amna Begum Ansari, policy analyst, both are joining us now. Namaste, Adit Kothari. There are more and more claims being made against the BBC, and there are political links to this also. Both sides of the corridor, both sides of the political spectrum, but with specific leaders and their intent. But also, is the functioning of the BBC, where they are putting their money, where they are making their money, who they are working with, is that now going to be under greater scrutiny?
I would certainly hope it does, because we've known it for long enough that Chinese firms like Huawei are essentially masked as paying outlets and acting as proxy for the CCP, providing monetary compensations, or either by kind or by other means, to drive a certain narrative or to disseminate articles which essentially shows China in a bad light. And BBC is just not the only one. Anand, if I was to point that to you, that China is essentially involved in more than 30 odd countries across the globe.
Right.
And in 2016, President Xi himself had said, wherever the readers are, wherever the viewers are, that is where propaganda must extend its tentacles to. And this is coming from the leader of the party himself, the president of China. There are estimates that 6.6 billion have been spent towards global media initiative by the CCP since 2009. Since 2016, Wall Street Journal, Washington Post have all been paid to the tune of £6 to £7 million. And all of these are being used and published by Indian news media working in a web which needs to be dismantled at some point. The CCP is also known to spend significantly on training foreign journalists, inviting them to workshops where they wine and dine in style. Ansa of Italy, Empresa of Czech Republic, they have considerable amount of Chinese investments, and they run dozens of pro-China material and narratives throughout the years. They curb stories on Uyghurs issues, Hong Kong democracy protests, or even what's happening in China with regards to the COVID situation. Africa is another case in the making, where 75% of the African journalists essentially view Chinese investment in Africa as extremely positive. So there is some sort of a twist to this tale that that definitely begs a deeper sort of investigation.
Are you with Lord Alton, or are you with the BBC, Amna Begum Ansari? Because BBC says it doesn't affect our editorial policy. One of our wings is making money from some Chinese entities. How is it going to affect our editorial policy? And Lord Alton is saying, ऐसा कैसे हो सकता है? वो पैसा दे रहे हैं, you will be influenced. कुछ कहेंगे तो आप थोड़ी करोगे.
Yeah, I mean, basically, I haven't gone through this entire episode, so I can't comment over there. But this BBC, what they have done recently, the documentary, I think they have the freedom of speech, and they can make a documentary if they want to. But we can see the leftist bias there. Yeah. Also, more than the bias, the timing of such a documentary says a lot. So we will never know who is the behind that. In the geopolitics, a lot of group interest work. So if this comes from a very neutral journalist perspective, that is the question mark. And when we hear allegations like it, it seems there is some kind of truth in it. And the main point I want to tell as an Indian Muslim is that as an Indian Muslim specifically, they need to understand that we already have our own agencies, a Supreme Court. If we talk about the riot, which is like very horrendous episode in 2002 in the past, we have seen this is the first time that Supreme Court has passed various verdicts regarding the conviction of individual who committed the worst crime against humanity. But in the same time, we can see in the documentary, they won't mention the Godhra train. They won't mention that the court also has convicted Muslim there. So this is the right. This is not the one side genocide against a community.
Correct.
So we should understand this. This is a kind of, I think personally, this is the agenda peddlers and players of the global victimhood industry, basically, who wants to keep the wound of 2002 alive.
Right.
And what is the reason behind it? I think we need more analysis.
Well, see, the documentary doesn't talk about the fact that 150 Hindus also died in police firing.
Exactly.
So it was riots. It was between two communities, and there was a flashpoint. There was a build-up to it, and what happened with the burning of the two bogies of car sevaks coming back from Ayodhya in that train in Godhra, that was the tipping point. But it was building up over a period of time. All that this documentary doesn't cover. But it's not just about the documentary, it's about the intent of the BBC. The BBC in the past, in our history, has been banned for 6 months under Indira Gandhi because of pushing vitriol and a negative agenda. They came back, clutching the feet and saying that no, we will mend our ways. But they don't. And see, and they're doing, and their dealings now, are they even in the interest of the British, is also a big question. I've just got more updates that Mr. Mahesh Jethmalani has actually tweeted one more article, and I'll come to you, Adit, on that. Mr. Jethmalani just tweeted about an hour ago that this is news of BBC's complete fall from grace. It has invested at least £150 million from the pension fund of 47,000 employees in Chinese state-owned companies accused of links to human rights violations. This renders it a Chinese vassal and a mouthpiece of China. And what they have quoted is a Daily Mail article where they have said that the BBC has invested more than £150 million in Chinese state-owned companies accused of links to appalling human rights violations. The BBC has been criticized for investing in Chinese state-owned companies. And China has received condemnation for a string of alleged human rights abuses. It's a detailed article and says that in the year, Adit, their journalist was forced to flee. Their award-winning journalist was forced to flee Beijing. The BBC invested 40 million. You're on mute, Adit. Adit, you're on mute. I can't hear you. All right. All right.
Are you
Yeah,
able to
I can hear
me
you now. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, okay. I was just saying, I'm glad that this Pandora's box has now been opened by Maheshji, and thanks to his extreme campaigning against against the BBC, that all of these information is now coming into the public domain. I mean, this is the same year when when the United Kingdom government, the Ofcom body, had essentially banned the CGTV from the UK, and they were banned on the pretext that they were essentially peddling a narrative of a pro-China and a pro-CCP narrative. They were essentially banned, and in retaliation to that, the BBC was essentially banned from broadcasting in China. And this is what happens in the background. So there is definitely some sort of play that needs to be investigated. And I'm sure, over the course of the next couple of days, there'll be more information which will come into the public foray. But, just wanted to take Amna's point slightly forward. One of the critical bits of this particular documentary that, we've been missing out is the fact that the BBC, very well aware, they have essentially used pawns from either the Al Jazeera background. So, for example, if you look at both the producers, they were both ex-Al Jazeera. If you look at all the people who were interviewed, right from Nilanjan Mukhopadhyay to, Haritosh Bal Singh, or Siddharth Vardarajan, they are all either linked to Article 14 caravan or the buyer. So essentially, it seems like BBC, knowingly or unknowingly, have used these two particular agencies as their mouthpiece to peddle a narrative against Narendra Modi and against the Hindu-Muslim unity in India. Because this is actually going to cause a lot of issues, not only in India but also amongst the British Indian diaspora in the UK, in the US, and Australia and Canada. So that is something that needs to be, looked into deeply as well.
No, once seen as a beacon of journalism and a template or a role model for all, this institution, fall from grace is also a larger concern. Look at the skeletons tumbling out of the closet, and day to day the credibility is also being run aground. The BBC has come out with clarifications, but how is it going to answer millions of pounds of UK taxpayers being invested in a state which the British government has openly, officially called out for human rights violations and genocide and atrocities? There are Tory leaders like Sir Ian Duncan, who's also come out and said that license fee payers would be horrified to know that in one way or the other, money that they pay to the BBC through their television license ends up sustaining a brutal, dictatorial and violent regime that practices genocide. It simply should not happen. There are so many more comments coming through. So not only are they taking money from the Chinese state-sponsored entities, they're also investing money in the Chinese state-sponsored entities. So whatever you give me, I'm going to route it back from another hand into your own country. Wow. I'm just trying to see the scale and the dynamics of what is happening here as it's unfolding. I've run out of time, but we will continue to track these developments and, of course, track what Mr. Mahesh Jethmalani then puts out later on, because he seems to have decided that I'm going after these guys now. Let them come after me. We're going to take a very, very short break, ladies and gentlemen. When we come back, it's a big question that the courts have now perhaps taken a position on. When you have Ek Vidhan, Ek Samvidhan, should there not be a common law for the citizens? Because the law should treat everybody equally. Should somebody seek respite in personal law when convenient and resort or seek the law per se as mandated by the Constitution when convenient? Or should there be just one law? Law above Sharia or personal law? We debate that when we come back. Stay with us.
Starting from 2.5 lakh. I propose to change the tax structure in this regime by reducing the number of slabs to 5 and increasing the tax exemption limit to 3 lakhs. The new tax rates are 0 to 3 lakh, nil. 3 to 6 lakhs, 5%. 6 to 9 lakhs, 10%. 9 to 12 lakh, 15%. 12 to 15 lakhs, 20%, and above 15 lakhs, 30%. Mahila Samman Savings Certificate will be made available for a 2-year period up to March 2025. This will offer deposit facility up to 2 lakh in the name of a woman or girls for a tenor of 2 years at fixed interest rate of 7.5% with partial withdrawal option. The maximum deposit limit for senior citizen savings scheme will be enhanced from 15 lakh to 30 lakhs of rupees. The maximum deposit limit for monthly income account scheme will be enhanced from 4.5 lakh to 9 lakh for single account and from 9 lakh to 15 lakh for joint account. Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana 4.0 will be launched to skill lakhs of youth within the next 3 years. On-job training, industry partnership and alignment of courses with needs of industry will be emphasized.
So let's quickly look at the highlights of Budget 2023 and why we say it's Sabka Budget. It's got fiscal prudence in consideration, it's got poll considerations. So there is about the vision of Bharat in 2047, but there is also the vision of the ballot in 2024 and of course the build-up in the states. We got Zaka on the wall, not with the poll numbers, but with the budget numbers this time, and we'll look at all of that in detail. But let's signpost some of the salient features. The growth via higher capital spending up by 33% to 10 lakh crore rupees. It surprised everybody and the corporate world has welcomed it. Focus on fiscal prudence continues. No tax on salary up to 7 lakh rupees in the new tax regime. So it's an out and out rebate if your salary is 7 lakhs. If it is more than that, then you get into the slabs which have also been revised in the new tax regime. Tax savings for young and retired continue. Nudge to the new tax regime is very clearly evident. This capex target of 10 lakh crore is very, very important because this capital expenditure is what will solve perhaps the jobs problem, ladies and gentlemen. Is everybody happy about it? We have to wait and see whether or not everybody is happy about it. What are the other allocations and some of the other sectors that have been taken care of in this budget? Let's try and understand. The PM Awas Yojana, the outlay has been hiked by 66%. So the construction, building of homes, affordable homes for those for whom the dream of a makan, their own makan, a chhat on their head was a far distant dream. They want to take that further. But what that does is that again generates employment, the steel industry, cement industry, and of course the labor intensive industry. 35,000 crore for green energy transition, and it's being incentivized because sustainability, green energy is one of the 7 pillars which the finance minister said Saptarishi. 2.4 lakh crore out of the 10 lakh crore is the outlay for railways. So infrastructure push continues. So they're on that path. They're staying steady and they're not deviating from it. It's perhaps the biggest ever allocation that's ever happened for railways. And then what are the other salient features that stand out? Is there something in there for the Kisan? Yes. Is skilling an important aspect that will be considered? Yes. And these pushes are over the next 3-year horizon. So they're looking beyond Lok Sabha 2024. And the Prime Minister very, very clearly said, a Samriddha, Samarth and Sampanna Bharat. That's the vision for 2047. So let's try and break up what stands out. For you and me, the salaried class, ladies and gentlemen, the highlight is tax mein kuch bachega ke liye, tax mein kuch bachega liye. For 2 years, nothing happened, Zaka. But this time, big bang announcements.
Yeah, I think for the middle class, absolutely, it is the tax numbers that everybody is crunching. They're looking at the new tax regime. First of all, the big picture, the new tax regime up until last year had 7 slabs. She's now slashed that down to 5. So it's an important thing. The big announcement, of course, is that if you have an income, like Anand was saying, up to 7 lakh rupees, then you pay no income tax whatsoever. Anything above 7 lakhs, then this is the new tax regime. These are the rates as per which you will be paying your tax. So let's assume you have an income of 8 lakh rupees, which means for the first 3 lakh rupees, you will not be paying any income tax. Between 3 lakh and 6 lakh rupees, that's 3 lakh rupees, you will pay 5%, that's 15,000 rupees. And then for the remaining 6 lakh to 8 lakh, which is 2 lakh rupees, you will pay at 10%, which is 30,000. So effectively, your net tax at an income of 8 lakh rupees annually would be 45,000 rupees, which would be a net saving, and we'll get to that in 1 second. But I think what they've essentially done, what the finance minister has essentially done, is rationalize both the slabs and the rates. From 7 rates, we've gone down to 5 rates now. And I think that is a very, very clear signal, a nudge that the new tax regime is where you need to be.
Where we go back to that number, ये बस trailer था, just to give you an understanding. There are many people who have more questions and more issues. We'll play out what the Prime Minister. There's one other important aspect, salient feature of the budget, which are the sectors where the focus has been kept, along with, of course, doing something for the middle class. It's not a populist budget, many people say, but if you look at the fine print, all the various dynamics which will be used over the next 18 months are there. The play is there. 15,000 crore for tribal development, an important vote bank which been spoken about. There is huge amounts of investment in agri-tech, agricultural startups, and of course rising millet production. Again, incentivizing the farmer, dairy, fisheries, again, water bank, which is going to be critical, which is going to be important. So revamped credit guarantee for MSMEs, another sector which is critical if you want to boost our manufacturing.
Let's listen in to the Prime Minister himself, who spoke to the media soon after the budget was presented by Nirmala Sitharaman. Let's not forget, this is the last full budget before the general elections of 2024. The Prime Minister has said that this has laid foundation for building developed India.
अमृत काल का ये पहला बजट विकसित भारत के विराट संकल्प को पूरा करने के लिए एक मजबूत नींव का निर्माण करेगा। ये बजट वंचितों को वरीयता देता है। ये बजट आज की एस्पिरेशनल सोसाइटी, गांव, गरीब, किसान, मध्यम वर्ग, सभी के सपनों को पूरा करें। मध्यम वर्ग के साथ खड़ी रहने वाली हमारी सरकार ने मध्यम वर्ग को टैक्स में बड़ी राहत दी है। इस सर्वस्पर्शी और विकसित भारत के निर्माण को गति देने वाले बजट के लिए
Back on, ladies and gentlemen, it's a landmark verdict in the Madras High Court that has ruled it open for a Muslim woman to exercise her inalienable right to dissolve a marriage by khula, which are divorce proceedings initiated by a wife. Now, in this case, the wife had approached a family court, and that is the Shariat Council. There is a process, a detailed process as far as khula is concerned. But what the court ruled is that family councils, Shariat councils, private bodies cannot pronounce or certify the dissolution of a marriage by khula, as they are not courts or arbitrators of dispute. The court ruled on a writ petition by a person who sought the quashing of this khula certificate that was issued to his wife in 2017 by a Shariat council. Yes, in the process of khula, it's not instant. There is a rigor that is that they go through. But what the court has turned around and said is, personal law has to be set aside. It directed the petitioner and his wife to approach the Tamil Nadu Legal Services Authority or a family court to resolve their dispute. Many activists are hailing the move, calling it a push towards legal uniformity, the tone being set for a common code. Not just regressive personal laws, but the fact is that my personal law, or what I believe is personal law, cannot be higher than what the law is mandated as per the Constitution, because the law has to see everyone equally. So if an instant teen talaq should not be allowed, then should a khula also be not allowed? Because there has to be equanimity and there has to be a common code. So, let's have a look at what exactly the Madras High Court order said. The Shariat Council are neither courts nor arbitrators, it said. It also said Shariat Council can't certify dissolution of marriage by khula. Muslim women can approach only family courts for divorce, and courts have also frowned upon such practices, other courts. And many would say, does this open a Pandora's box, or does it just set the tone that the courts largely across the country are saying, don't use personal law when convenient, don't use the constitution or law as per mandated as the Indian Penal Code when convenient, just let's stick to a common code. So that's the whole idea. So what does it do, this judgment? It sets the precedent of holding Shariat councils invalid. Decisions by Muslim bodies can be overturned by law, and equality for both men and women in the eyes of the law. That's the most important part. It sets the stage for debate on perhaps now moving fast to a common code. Let's go straight across. A big step towards common code is the question that we are asking, ladies and gentlemen. Ashwini Upadhyay, Advocate Supreme Court, is with us, and Nigat Abbas, activist, with us. Let me start with Nigat Abbas. Many would say that the process of khula itself is so long, so you'll also turn around and ask that this man first went to the Shariat court. He didn't say, I don't want to go through the Shariat. There the verdict was against him, so he said, okay, let me go to the court. This is very convenient for both sides. First we'll go to the Sharia court, then agar wahan nahi mila, so chalo, let's go to the... And this not just with the Muslim community, with across communities this happens, where they try to pit personal law with the constitution or the penal code.
And I really think that these revolutionary decisions need to come and need to overtake the entire country's population's decision of just taking things very lightly and easily. This is very important when we are carrying forward with the policies like schemes and policies like which is working on the equality on the gender basis. It's really important for all of us to come on the same path, on the same panel, and be assured that equality is it's about the law, and the law has to justify that everybody is getting equal rights. Either it's a male or a female, or coming from any community or caste, color, or creed. That doesn't really have to do anything with within the system. I really think these are the kind of decisions which are going to take the communities, which are the backward communities, ahead, and are also going to bash the orthodox mentality of the people. This is really important when we talk about the Uniform Civil Code. Ashwini ji is here; he can obviously tell you better about the Uniform Code. We both are the petitioners. Me, because Ashwini ji has given me that chance. So this is really important that we are working towards the uniformity now, so that everybody is equal. No one is above the law, and most importantly, everybody has the rights which are the basic rights. Let's say about triple talaq, which was bashed, now khula, and a number of things in several communities, not only Muslims, which are supposed to be bashed and are coming from the orthodox mentality from the ancient times. We need to clear them so that there are no victims, because when we're talking about triple talaq or khula, we see a lot of victims coming and crying. Even in the debates, Anand, we've been in the panel discussions together during the triple talaq time, and we've seen people women coming there and crying with their children that they did not get justice. Why? Because there was no equality in the terms of community and in the terms of
equality as an aspect. Yes, a lot of times what happens is that a lot of personal laws, a lot of traditions may be lopsided against women, but the law does not see man and woman. The law sees in terms of have you been able to make a case and whether your argument merits, and that's how the law looks at it, and that's why there has to be equality. So many would turn around and say, a woman got divorced, now she's not going to get divorced, she'll have to go through the whole rigor in family. But the man did not want divorce. Earlier in the case of triple talaq, the women did not want separation. The man used personal law as an easy way to get rid of or break free. So Ashwini ji, somewhere courts are sending a very strong message. The courts are sending a message saying, walk on the path of common code at the earliest. You have multiple petitions in the court on various aspects of personal law.
देखिए, पहले आनंद किसी भी देश का संविधान वहां के रीति रिवाज, वहां की प्रथा, वहां के कस्टम, उसको प्रमोट और प्रोपोगेट करने के लिए होता है। तो भारत का संविधान भारतीय रीति रिवाज, भारतीय परंपरा, भारतीय पहनावा, भारतीय खान पान, उसको प्रमोट और प्रोपोगेट करता है। भारतीय भाषा को प्रमोट प्रोपोगेट करता है। विदेशी पहनावा, विदेशी रीति रिवाज, विदेशी मजहब को प्रमोट प्रोपोगेट करने के लिए भारत का संविधान नहीं है। हाँ, आर्टिकल 25 कहता है सबको समान अधिकार है, समान धार्मिक अधिकार है, लेकिन धर्म पालन का अधिकार है, धर्मांतरण का नहीं। रीतियों को पालन करने का अधिकार है, कुरीतियों को नहीं। प्रथा को फॉलो करने का राइट है, कुप्रथा को नहीं। और प्रथा में भी कौन सी, भारतीय प्रथा या विदेशी प्रथा? भारतीय प्रथा को पालन करने का अधिकार है, विदेशी प्रथा को नहीं। भारतीय रीतियों को पालन करने का अधिकार है, विदेशी रीतियों का नहीं। तो इसलिए मैं कहता हूं कि भारत की तो जो परंपरा है वो नारी तू नारायणी है। अब जब भारत की परंपरा नारी तू नारायणी है, तो फिर ऐसे कंडीशन में तलाके हसन, तलाके बिद्दत, तलाके एहसन, तलाके सुन्नत, तलाके बाइन, तलाके किनाया, निकाह हलाला, निकाह मुता, निकाह मिस्यार, तहर्रुस, ये सब भारत की नहीं है। ये तो जाहिलों का काम था, जो हलाला करते थे, मुताह करते थे, मिस्यार करते थे, तहर्रुस करते थे और पता नहीं क्या क्या करते थे। ये भारत की परंपरा नहीं है। और भारत के रहने वालों को समझना चाहिए कि 500 साल पहले यहाँ कोई सारे के सारे हिंदू थे। निगत अब्बास बैठी हैं, 2 जनरेशन 3 जनरेशन पहले हो सकता है ये मेरी मौसी की बेटी हो, मैं तो इसको आज भी अपनी बहन मानता हूं, लेकिन मेरा मानना है 3 जनरेशन पहले हो सकता है मेरी बुआ की लड़की होगी, या मेरे मौसा की लड़की होगी, या मेरे फूफा की लड़की होगी। तो हम सब सारे भाई बहन हैं यहाँ पे। भारत में तो एक्चुअल में 80% हिंदू हैं, 20% जो अपने आप को हिंदू नहीं मानते, एक्चुअल में वो कन्वर्टेड हिंदू हैं। मुस्लिम तो कोई है ही नहीं यहाँ पे, चाहे वो चंगेज हो, चाहे बहलोन हो, चाहे लोधी हो, चाहे गजनी हो, चाहे गोरी हो, चाहे बाबर।
ये अलग लेवल पे
उनके बच्चे यहाँ, उनके किसी के बच्चे नहीं।
देखिए ये
अब मैं आता हूँ विषय।
हाँ जी, हाँ विषय पे जी।
नहीं, मैं आपका जो पॉइंट है उस पे आता हूँ। देखिए बड़ी सीधी सी बात है, एक सोच है एकोहम द्वितीयो नास्ति, दूसरी सोच है कहती है सबका साथ सबका विकास, सब समान है। तो जब हम भारत में कहते हैं संविधान है, संविधान को अगर आप उसको संविधान, ऐसा विधान जो सबके लिए समान लागू हो, तो जब सबके लिए समान लागू हो तो तलाक लेने की प्रक्रिया एक होनी चाहिए, तलाक लेने का ग्राउंड एक होना चाहिए, तलाक कोर्ट के जरिए सबका होना चाहिए। अगर मौखिक है तो सबका मौखिक। मेरे को लगता है ये अलग अलग नहीं चलना चाहिए। और मुझे पूरा भरोसा है कि 2023 में ये पर्सनल लॉ खत्म होगा, हिंदू मैरिज एक्ट भी खत्म होगा, मुस्लिम मैरिज एक्ट भी खत्म होगा, पारसी मैरिज एक्ट भी खत्म होगा, क्रिश्चियन मैरिज एक्ट भी खत्म होगा, सब खत्म होंगे। और इस देश में इंडियन पिनल कोड की तर्ज पे एक इंडियन सिविल कोड आएगा। मैं, आप उसको कॉमन सिविल कोड कहते हैं या यूनिफॉर्म सिविल कोड कहते हैं, मैं उसको इंडियन सिविल कोड कहता हूं। इंडियन पिनल कोड पहले से है, एक इंडियन सिविल कोड की जरूरत है। देश की सभी बहन बेटियों को इक्वल राइट होना चाहिए, वो बेटी हिंदू की हो या मुस्लिम की हो, पारसी की हो या ईसाई की हो।
मैं बस यहाँ पर यही कह रहा हूँ,
देखिए बस बात खत्म कर रहा हूँ, 10 सेकंड। बेटी किसी की हो, बेटी किसी की हो, शादी विवाह की उम्र समान होनी चाहिए, गुजारा भत्ता सभी बेटियों को मिलना चाहिए, विरासत का अधिकार सबको मिलना चाहिए, वसीयत का अधिकार सबको मिलना चाहिए।
मैं बस इतना कहूंगा, मैं आपकी सारी बातों, मैं आपकी
भरण पोषण का अधिकार सबको
मिलना चाहिए। सिर्फ बेटियों की बात ना करें, बेटों का भी उतना ही अधिकार कानून पर होना चाहिए जितना बेटियों का है। और कानून की नजर में बेटा बेटी दोनों की नजरें सेम होनी चाहिए, चाहे वो तलाक हो, चाहे वो इनहेरिटेंस हो, चाहे वो कोई भी बात हो। इट हैज टू बी इक्वल, gender neutral. That's what I am trying to say. That it cannot be that certain aspects, law cannot be lopsided in favor of anybody. Thank you, Ashwini ji. I've run out of time. Nigat Abbas, thank you very, very much. We'll follow the developments very closely, but the court seemed to have set the tone. With that, it's a wrap of this edition of The Right Stand. For distribution of government services. So from aspirational districts, they move to block level, where they also want to encourage governments, state governments to start building unity malls where everybody can converge. Farmers, local producers can come there and sell their produce. So unity malls is something which they want to push. Capex outlay increased steeply by 33%. So this is the infrastructure and investment. That's the third pillar. The fourth pillar is unleashing the potential. National data governance policy for innovation and research for startups. This time around, very aggressively pushing agri startups. So at the rural level, encouraging entrepreneurship and a certain level of initiative. Financial sector, it looks at the MSME revamp scheme.